You're listening to Women's Dream Enlightenment, dream decoding, deep discussions, and spiritual stories of self-discovery to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, founder of Women's Dream Analysis. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today I have Susan Gold. She is an author and consultant and here with us to discuss everything about dreams, their wonderful power, and the transformative ability they have to overcome trauma as well.
Hi, Megan. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here, Susan. You have such an interesting story just from what I've read on your About page, and I want just to give you a chance to let the listeners know a little bit about your background. But one of my first questions, which will lead you down that path, is what does enlightenment mean to you?
I love that question, and I love that you ask it every episode. It's just such a tradition, so thank you. Enlightenment to me means an opening of truth. And oftentimes that truth for me can be rumbling within my system, but I can't sort of place my fingertips and my full hand on it. It's not quite tangible. So enlightenment is when I can touch, feel, and taste it. And it's that aha.
Yes, absolutely. It's that connecting with the unseen in that unseen way. That's awesome. So tell the listeners a little bit about your background and or if there was a particular time in your enlightenment journey or a pivotal moment that brought you to where you are today and the work that you're doing today.
Wow. Well, it's been a long road. But I would have to say I always knew there was something different about Susan. I had hesitancy about being here for this earthly walk. I was the middle of 5 children with 2 pseudo-adults at the helm doing the best they could. My dad is a genius astrophysicist, but he also has an issue with alcoholism and sexual addiction and narcissism. My mother soothed through food. She was a compulsive overeater, and back then they prescribed diet pills, which was speed straight on. So I was raised by a speed freak and an alcoholic, and I also believe my mother had mental illness. And I was very ebullient and full of light, and I have recall way back. My 3 brothers and sister all have very different experiences and memories of growing up in our home. And I have recall back to 18 months. It didn't feel safe. There was abuse of every type, filling the crevices and crannies. Honestly, my first suicidal ideation came at 6. And I remember it clearly. I used to talk to the angels and wish myself up onto the clouds, hope for escape. I had bright light in me, and I knew I would depart as soon as possible. And I was very intuitive, a super empath, just sponged it all up. And I was quite telepathic early on until that got me into too much trouble. So I shut all that down. And that upbringing was the perfect launching pad to set me into exploration and walking with, open curiosity as far as myself, my trajectory, why I was on this planet, and what my mission really and truly was. So with that, I faced my own alcoholism and addiction, my own battle with clinical depression, and ultimately narcissistic abuse, and have experienced lots of traditional and non-traditional healing modalities to be where I am today. And I had a very successful career as a television and film producer, and was known for matching celebrities to brands. But I think I'm just now fulfilling my mission, which is helping others transform similar traumas that I have.
That's a beautiful path to take. And I think that's wonderful that's what happens. It's a gift. We don't know it at the time, but whatever it is that we are going through, it's a gift if we can share it then. And if we can then help others that are going through that and stick around and help them. And that's really what we're called to do once we make it through, right?
Yeah, it's just being willing to trudge the trudge, and also to really have new perspective. I mean, for me, I feel, why wait till you get to the other side for life review? Like, just do it here and now and let that weighted bag drop. Yeah.
Right. And placing ourselves here and understanding that even though we might not want to be here, that there's a reason we're still here. And finding that reason and accepting that sort of, I don't want to call it groundedness, but that we are a spirit in a human body, and we're in a human body for this time for a reason versus the other way around.
Yeah, that's a beautiful realization. Once you get it, it shifts your whole perspective and your dynamic. And yeah, you're walking in a whole new zip code.
Yes, it really does shift everything. For me, that was part of enlightenment, I would say. Well, what role have dreams played in your enlightenment? I know that you have a dream that you have graciously submitted for us to discuss today, and I think you probably have a lot of experience with recording your dreams as well over the past few decades, you said. So let's talk about your experiences there.
Yeah, I just wish I was as good at interpreting them all. So I feel graced and humbled to be in your company, Megan, and I really honor your gifts and your expertise. I had repetitive dreams as a kid, always a pursuit, being chased, and I had very vivid dreams and lucid dreams. And in adulthood, same, repetitive, lots of burning fires, repeatedly returning to this cabin in the woods that I used to rent in the Catskills to escape New York City. And yeah, but the one that I wanted to speak with everyone about today was a quite lucid dream I had. I was living in Los Angeles. I thought I had gone there to take a huge career opportunity, and it was a great career opportunity, but it was really to meet one of my greatest gurus, and that was the man who would become my ex-husband. And it was a very tough divorce, let's just say that. And I was able to retain the home that I had bought for our family at the end of it. And this was a few months after my ex-husband had left, because he held camp in court in the master bedroom. And I, by choice, was in a partial conversion in the garage on a mattress on the floor. And that was the metaphor for the relationship and the dynamic. And that's what I was allowing. And that's what I walked through, up and out of. So I had, believe it or not, tremendous guilt stepping away from that. And my ex was one that I perceived to be a narcissist. It's my own opinion. And he had turned my beloved uncle against me. And it started happening even before the divorce proceedings. And I could see it happening. And it's kind of standard in narcissistic abuse. And so the dream was he and my uncle were standing like 6 feet away from me, and I had huge guilt and shame wave over me. And I was mum, but I remember feeling so guilty that I had left. So left the system, left this toxicity. I guess you'd call it survivor's guilt. And I woke up. I was actually in my son's bedrooms on his full-size bed. He was sleeping in my room because he had a terror, and he eventually went to sleep. So I was sleeping in his room. We reversed, and I woke to this wetness in the room and this sort of soft golden white angelic presence and this golden essence around that being. And I knew clearly that I was not still in the dream, but the message, the telepathic message, was forgive yourself. You've walked through it all. All is well. Forgive yourself. And then the essence was gone. And then I was really clearly awake. But that dream really stuck with me more than probably most dreams of my life. And it never repeated.
That's a very powerful dream. That's very, very healing, though. And as you know, it's you healing yourself. It can be your spirit guides as well, but it can be that intervention, but it can also just be your connecting with your higher self, telling you that you can be okay with this, that you don't need to carry that heavy guilt. Where was I know you said you were in your son's bedroom, but in the dream, what was the setting?
It was just an outdoor setting. I didn't even know where we were. And it was a moderate temperature, wasn't cold, wasn't hot, was comfortable. And the lighting was a bit dim. And I just was really targeted into the distance. I mean, I was surprised to see those two figures, and there they were together. So it surprised me that there they were together, and they were silent. The fact that we were silent and the communication was telepathic or intuitive, and that it just morphed into me awakening to feel this energetic presence at the foot of the bed and then in the room.
And when you said you were focused on the distance, were they far away from you, or were
they were approximately 4 to 6 feet from where I was standing in the dream. And they just had normal clothing on, nothing that would stand out, just trousers and shirts, nothing elaborate.
Do you remember what you had on by any chance?
I didn't have anything that was notable.
Okay.
I had like a comfortable dress on, but it wasn't of note.
So obviously, one of the most important things in my method is, first off, the memory. You had told me earlier that this was quite a while ago, years ago in your past, but you still remember it very vividly. And the second aspect is mood. And so, of course, you look at the emotion, and usually sometimes you have to amplify that emotion to actually understand it, because it might seem mild in the dream. In this case, it's already amplified. You were already completely engulfed with that feeling. And so we don't really need to amplify it further. You know that you were feeling that heavy guilt and shame. And the gray that you say was sort of surrounding you, and the gray that they appeared to have, is really reminiscent of your not wanting to give your energy to that anymore, not wanting to really animate that relationship anymore. And you were sort of taking in all of that emotion at that time, but you were it was representative, it was a metaphorical representation of them being gray. The gray, many times in dreams, a lot of all colors can have symbolism. And I default to a color theory that I've studied where they actually incorporate a number of questions around that color to help you associate what might be part of that color. And some of the questions for gray are really quite telling. I want to shield myself from those feelings, which you, of course, really definitely did. I feel emotionally distant, only an observer. And so you, of course, were, because there was some distance between you. You didn't speak, you were just observing them. They didn't have to say anything to you for you to feel those emotions at that moment. It is as if I am standing aside watching myself mechanically go through the motions, which also you were there just experiencing them. I want to remain uncommitted, uninvolved, shielded, and separated from the situation, which you very much did. You wanted to remove yourself from that relationship. There was the guilt that you felt about your relationship with your uncle. And when I asked you, it's very important when you have people in your dreams to think of 3 adjectives to describe those people, because sometimes those people aren't literally those people. Sometimes those people represent the aspect of yourself that is like those other people, and however you would describe them. So if you would describe them as, for example, a very easygoing, carefree person, and you see them, it could be that you're longing to connect with that part of yourself, that you need to reincorporate that part of yourself. Now, if it's a negative aspect of that person, then it could be that you're struggling to disassociate that aspect of yourself. And so when I asked to describe those people, or we can now, how would you describe your uncle, for example, in 3 adjectives?
In the dream, in this specific
in
dream.
real life.
Oh,
Just off the top of your head, 3 adjectives about his
engaging,
Mhm.
Opinionated, and fun.
Okay, good. So then 3 adjectives about your husband, ex-husband that was present in the dream.
Clueless, follower, self-important.
Okay. So in the next step of the method, what I do is mirror those aspects back to you and ask, what is it that this could represent in your life? And so the question is, was there an aspect of you that was no longer engaging and fun? Was there an aspect of you that you felt guilty about being a clueless follower? Did you feel shame about being a clueless follower? Did you feel guilty about no longer being fun and engaging? So even though you did experience a very traumatic event that these 2 people were involved in, and they were part of this triangle of conflict and emotion, they also represent aspects of yourself in your subconscious. And sometimes the things that annoy us most about people are because they're actually aspects of ourselves that we've disassociated. And so that's what I would pull out of that, rather than take the literal route, which is very easy, and just say, well, you know, you were getting a divorce. He created a conflict with your uncle. They were both there. You were feeling guilty. Done. It can be very obvious, but I think there's a layer underneath that needs to be brought up, and it's all in the small details. So it's all in the words that you would choose, even if I knew them. It's the ones you would choose even now to explain what they're like. And if you felt that way about them then those aspects are what you can pull out as far as their presence there.
That's beautiful, Megan. And it's so spot on, so
Oh,
fitting.
good.
Really wonderful job.
Good, thank you. And to go on to the next section, I love that it carried on when you woke up. And I love that you had this wonderful, comforting experience upon waking, because the mood aspect, again, is so important, not just what happens in the dream, but the mood when you wake up. That is what you're left with. That's the resonance. That's the waking. Sometimes I call it a dream hangover, but in this case, it's more of a dream chill, right? It's like a dream thrill, because you have this wonderful visitation, this wonderful emotional saving, healing experience. And then the colors change. So you have the white and the golden and the sparkling and floating. All of those words emote a completely different emotional aspect and a completely different state of energetic being. And when we look at those same associative questions for white, we get, this is a new experience. I'm becoming aware of my new feelings. I have a new outlook and a new awareness, pure and innocence, open and accepting. And so it's that integration of those shadow aspects of yourself. The gray, think of the gray as a shadow. Think of their personality aspects as your shadow. And then see you awaken in this glowing, enlightened state where you've integrated those aspects of your shadow, and you no longer have to carry the weight of that disassociation. You've achieved that healing, which is the wholeness, which is the transformation that the dream provided.
It's like all the life experience just got woven, embroidered into the fascination of this whole dream experience. It's unbelievable. And now I understand why that dream was so profound and lives within me even now. I think I'm 8 years out, and yeah.
Yes, and you're so fortunate to remember such a beautiful dream, because some people remember horrible dreams, right? Nightmares that stay with them for that period of time. But the reason that you have kept a hold on it, and the reason that you have not forgotten it, is because it was your own self-healing. It was your own elevation of awareness. And your higher self doesn't want you to forget that. It doesn't want you to go back into that shadow. Okay, so now I'm going to pull an oracle card for you. And since this time has passed and it was in the past, we need to see what we want to hear today about this, since we are revisiting it, and time is not linear as we think it is. So it really doesn't matter how long ago it was. Okay, so it is grace and gratitude. And the saying is, through gratitude, joy expands. And when we look at this woman, she's got some beautiful, sparkly air coming off her hand. And I would say that that is the sparkles floating from your dream. And she has this beautiful path ahead of her, as well as the very beautiful pink trees. And now I'm going to let you tell me what you see in that image and if that's resonating with you.
Well, it's just profound, and there are indeed no accidents, and just the orchestration of your reading, Megan, is so exquisite and profound. And yes, this is absolutely the dream, the dream incarnate with the gold sparkles, and it's the bliss of where I am now after moving through some really difficult life experiences to trudge through. And that's the radiant gift of the soul, my soul, in this moment. So thank you for bringing this all full circle, and so astutely and with such great intuition and goddess energy. It just breathes all over you. So thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your kind words so much. I'm so glad that you resonated with what we experienced here today. It means so much to me that you were willing to share it, not only with me, but with all of our listeners. And I hope that their experiences will resonate as well, and that everyone will learn the power, the transformative power our dreams can have. And not only that, but the healing power that they're bringing us every night, that they can bring us. So thank you, Susan, so much for being here today.
It was my privilege and my pleasure, and it won't be forgotten. And I'm really grateful to have been in your presence and the presence of your listeners. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.